I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. We saw our second largest single-day spike of COVID-19 cases in Windsor-Essex this weekend. Part of the reason why this area will not enter stage 2 of the reopening plan on Friday. We'll have more on that in a second. First, we want to take a look at COVID-19 cases here in our area. 210 people have an active case of COVID-19 in Windsor-Essex. That's according to numbers from the provincial government. 46 people tested positive for COVID-19 in Windsor-Essex on Saturday alone. That gets us to agri-food workers. The majority of new cases are in that sector. The health unit doesn't have a breakdown on migrant workers, but it's become the focal point as 343 people who are agri-food workers have tested positive for COVID-19 during the pandemic in Windsor-Essex. That's more than the number of healthcare workers who have tested positive during this. It's also more than the number of people living or working at long-term care or retirement homes in Windsor-Essex that have tested positive. 299 cases of COVID-19 in that sector, according to our health unit as of last week. That's how the COVID-19 cases break down here in Windsor-Essex, and the focus on migrant workers. It's led to calls for mandatory testing from leaders in our community. Jason Vio has more.
Over the weekend, 58 new cases of COVID-19 in Windsor-Essex, 50 of them in the agriculture sector.
Their concerns are if they test positive, they're going to lose all their workers, they're going to lose their crops. But I think the chief medical officer, with his communications, has a solution for that. If they test asymptomatic, they'll still be able to work, and we're all over this.
But patience appears to be running thin for some, especially when it comes to what's being done to address the growing number of migrant workers contracting COVID-19.
Where all available resources could be brought down to this region to enact mobile testing, to ensure that we have adequate accommodation, to ensure that we have language services.
Essex MPP Taras Natashak is calling the situation a crisis and something that was predictable and possibly preventable. But he wouldn't go as far as saying mandatory testing is the answer, especially when it comes to civil liberties.
But what I do know is that if the assessment center model isn't working, we need to take a look at what the barriers are to those migrant workers who are not coming.
And it's proving difficult to test migrant workers. The low numbers at Leamington's assessment center paint that picture. Now, it has the capacity to test more than 500 daily, but here are the numbers for last week. It's less than 10% of the more than 8,000 farm workers in Essex County. Testing there reopens tomorrow and Wednesday and could continue beyond that if there's a need. Ontario's Minister of Agriculture says he wants to see expanded COVID-19 testing in the farming sector.
Obviously, there's a big challenge in making sure that the people, like you say, 8,000 people out there, are they all aware of their ability to get tested and their need to get tested? And we want to make sure that they all are individually given a choice as to whether they want to be tested, and hopefully they all would be, to protect themselves and to protect the people they're working with.
He says the system is set up for assessment centers, not mass on-farm testing. He hopes the current way of doing things will be successful. Otherwise, they may have to look at other ways of doing things to boost testing in the agriculture sector. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens spoke with the Premier this weekend. He said that he asked for, quote, stronger intervention from the province when it comes to testing migrant workers. Dilkens calls it a complex issue and that he didn't want Windsor to stay closed for something happening in a specific sector.
Our issue is, as a region, we encompass Essex County as well, and we know that there has been an outbreak in the migrant worker population, and we really need leadership help get that under control. I mean, we are not going to ever move out of the phase that we're in, the stage that we're in, unless there is widespread mandatory testing to help these folks identify those who are sick, help them self-isolate, and get the treatment that they need to move forward. And that was really the frustration that I'm hearing from business folks and others in the community today, that they're ready to move forward, but we need to make sure that there's a plan to take care of those who need support in that very discrete population.
Now, despite what we're seeing here, the number of cases across the province, it's trending down overall. And as we mentioned, more regions across Ontario will now be allowed to enter that second phase of reopening. Premier Doug Ford made that announcement today at Queen's Park. Lisa Shing has the details.
It's patio season again in a lot of cities, and even more on Friday. 7 regions in Ontario will enter stage 2 of reopening: Durham, York, Halton, Haldimand, Norfolk, Niagara and Lambton, but not those in Toronto, Peel and Windsor-Essex.
All regions are doing much better, but it shouldn't be much longer. We just ask people for their patience.
The province says those regions just aren't ready.
Well, we're assessing regions constantly, but unfortunately the numbers in Windsor were still higher than we'd like to see, along with those in Toronto and Peel.
Aside from patios, stage 2 means hair and beauty salons can open. So can malls, daycares, and outdoor swimming pools and splash pads. Although there's been some concern, people still in stage 1 areas may skirt the rules and travel to one of the 24 areas with loosened restrictions. Premier Doug Ford explained the regional approach.
Up in North Bay, there was very few cases. Why are we being punished for Toronto? And I heard it from Kenora and other regions, rural areas that didn't have the cases. So we agreed.
And despite the gradual reopening, the number of new cases is trending down. Ontario saw a spike of 181 cases today, the lowest since late March.
I think part of it is the increased access to testing. So people are going for testing earlier when the symptoms just begin. And so hopefully they're isolating right away, so there's less spread.
This announcement comes after the province allowed expanded social circles and gatherings of 10 if you're physically distanced. Up to 50 people will now be allowed at outdoor weddings and funerals. But despite these eased measures, the province is still urging the public to stay vigilant to avoid a second wave. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Toronto.
We have a rescue to tell you about that happened on Rondo Bay earlier today. 2 people in a canoe that flipped and were struggling to stay afloat, but rescuers got help from an unlikely source. 3 teens who just happened to be fishing nearby. They responded to screams for help. A friend of the victims rushing to shore to call police. Eventually, OPP got there. An officer even hopped on a canoe with the teens to help locate the victims.
The girl who had originally contacted us for help, I think it was really brave of her because she said that she had been paddling for about 30 minutes until she reached us, and she had also tried to reach other people and from the other side of the bay, and apparently they had just kind of ignored her because they didn't really see if there was anything wrong. So I'm just really glad that she was able to make it that far. I think it was really brave of her.
So she's going for a half hour already.
We
don't know what could have happened. It's the
Exactly.
thing. So we're just glad that we were there and we were able to get people out there as soon as possible.
A Kingsville man and his American husband say the easing of COVID-19 travel restrictions isn't helping them. And that's because of the 14-day self-isolation requirement that visitors must follow. The CBC's Tamina Aziz joins us live now. Tamina, you spoke to the couple about their situation. What are they saying?
Chris, Cody Soulier and Ryan Canaram have been married for about 2 years, and they say this situation is stressful and frustrating. They haven't seen each other in 3 months due to the COVID-19 travel restrictions. And even though these restrictions have been lifted for family members and spouses so that they can cross the border, Canaram says he still can't visit his husband because he can't take 2 weeks off of work. And this is especially upsetting for them because Soulier was planning to move to the U.S. before the pandemic. This is Cody Soulier and Ryan Canaram before the pandemic. The couple would spend every weekend together in Kingsville. Now they've been kept apart for 3 months.
It just takes a toll on your mental health a little bit.
Soulier filed his paperwork to immigrate to the U.S. a year and a half ago. He was scheduled for an immigration interview in March.
And 5 days before, I received a notification that it was canceled just because of the pandemic. So that was quite the blow. And then Ryan and I found out that the border would be closing as well to U.S. citizens. So he was no longer able to cross into Canada.
They video call and text to communicate, but they say that just isn't the same.
We would just like the opportunity to be able to see each other without all these restrictions put in place if we're healthy. I don't see why not.
Canaram doesn't have enough vacation time to self-isolate for 14 days.
Maybe the government will see this and they'll understand that love is essential no matter where you live, and there's got to be something else that they can look at doing to allow us to see each other.
Their situation isn't unique, that other family members and couples are facing the same dilemma. In fact, when this story was published earlier today, I had other people reaching out, sharing their stories that are similar to theirs. And they're all just waiting and hoping to see the government lift further restrictions for family members so that they can visit and see their loved ones. I should also note that the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, didn't specifically speak to the situation these couples are facing, but he did say that there is a broader consensus to keep the current border measures in place. Chris.
Thanks for this, Tamina. The CBC's Tamina Aziz live tonight. A girl in LaSalle is reporting being approached by a man who appeared to be a police officer, but town police say that none of their officers or vehicles were in the area at the time. Now, this reportedly happened last Thursday between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The girl was riding her bike on Malden Road near Delmar Street when a siren briefly came on and a man motioned for her to pull into the parking lot at Malden Square Plaza. The man asked her a few questions but did not ask any personal details before telling her she could leave. The man was white, muscular, about 6 feet tall. He was wearing a police ballistic vest with the words LaSalle Police on the front and a collared shirt with the word police on the sleeves. He was also wearing a surgical type mask and had a deep, raspy voice. Windsor City Council has voted to go ahead with the Celestial Beacon project. The $7 million project would be home to the streetcar 351 that was recently restored at a cost of about $1 million. Councillor Fabio Casante added some conditions to the project, one of which is that the height be lowered as much as possible to protect views of the river. Councillors Fred Francis and Joanne Ginac voted against moving ahead with the project. They say that they're concerned how the COVID-19 shutdown will impact the city's finances. The city is applying for a $3 million federal grant, but it's not guaranteed. Nature lovers in our area finally got their fill this weekend at Point Pelee National Park. The park reopened its gates over the weekend with some limitations, and for the time being, it's only going to be open on weekends. It was closed to vehicles and visitors. They were asked to stay away in March, along with other national parks across the country because of the pandemic. Jacob Barker stopped by on Saturday to capture the scene.
I love being back in the park. Just as our visitors have not been in the park, our staff hasn't either. So it's really nice to be back in the park and doing the job I love. We're taking every precaution to keep our visitors safe. So we have additional cleaning and sanitation of our washrooms. We're limiting the number of people that can enter the park, although we have not reached capacity yet today. But we are keeping a close watch on not only the park itself, but individual areas, and we're prepared to close them if they become too busy.
Oh, it's wonderful to be back in the park. It's been awesome. It's been a long time since we were in here, but we're happy to be back. What do you think, G?
Yay.
What do you like doing in the park?
Walking.
Yeah.
Biking. I like looking at birds and looking for turtles.
How big was the turtle we saw today?
Tiny.
So what are you going to be doing in the park today then?
Just bicycling generally and looking at nature and enjoying each other, you know, that kind of a thing. You feel human again. You feel, more in touch with stuff. Why sit in the house on days like this when you can come out and go biking and just hear nature and have a couple bees get stuck in the truck?
Did you miss it?
Well, it was the first time out. Yeah, we miss it. We'll be back a few times. Usually we do hit this spot this time of year, so we're lucky to have it right now open.
It was certainly beautiful on Saturday. Popped out myself to catch the sunset, and it was as if no one else was there. So always a nice little reminder of what we've got in our backyard when it comes to some of the beautiful sights and vistas. And we will have Colette Kennedy breaking down the type of weather we got this weekend to enjoy what we have in our backyards. That's next. Well, a global pandemic is not enough to keep Coogie the Australian Labradoodle away from the seniors that she loves to visit. After the province issued a shutdown of long-term care homes in March, the owner of this adorable pup was not able to get to the people that she loved to visit. But the therapist at Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto got creative and they went virtual.
I can see you.
You can see us. With the whole pandemic, I think it's really pushed everybody to think differently. This is Coogie. She's an 8-year-old Australian Labradoodle. Cooge, can you say hi to your friend? You say hi to your friends? Hey? So I would go to Sunnybrook every week and meet Jen downstairs, and she would come bring me up to the wing. We would visit, you know, in excess of sort of 20 different individuals. The vets that are there, both men and women. Average age is over 96, and they're amazing.
What you see is what you get.
When you realize how much is, because of COVID, how much is cut back up there, you know, their morning coffees, they're going downstairs to get something, none of that can happen. We realized that the residents weren't allowed visitors, they weren't allowed to have the volunteers come in, that really their interactions were only going to be staff. Within about a week or two, I sent Jen a note and said, what if we FaceTimed each other? Hi, Jen.
How's it going, Mom?
We are here, we're ready to go. So who are we gonna go see? Little video visit with you, Mo, and Coogie. Coogie and Mo are on the screen here.
Hi, Georgie. We came to visit you through the screen, our little virtual visit to you.
Now, this is all very sudden and new information and new technology for the veterans, and including myself. I'm really proud of my veterans. They've really adapted well. It's been very difficult, but I think this is something different that they're allowed to see.
Oh, she's looking right at you.
Coogie's so cute. I think you have to keep some form of normalcy through all this. You know, coming each week, there's something that the dog gives them, and it's amazing, and you see it in their faces.
Oh, she's giving me a kiss back, Georgie. That's for you. Big lick for you.
It certainly is great to have the dog in the building. Bye-bye.
Bye, doll.
Oh.
Come on. Big kisses.
I think for me, my favorite moments are when a veteran's having a bad day and they see the dog, their face lights up, sorry, and you know, you've made a moment, you've changed their day, you know, you've made them happy when they weren't happy. And I think for me, those are the favorite moments.
You made our day.
And mine.
Oh,
Okay, dear.
See you. Hey. Hey.
The dog is going to give you a kiss.
Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. Colette, I can't watch that story without thinking about your little puppy yourself. How's your buddy doing?
Tia is doing really well, but I'm watching that and I'm thinking, Chris, I need to rethink her allowance or her treats or some, you know, that dog is working hard and doing all this volunteer work.
That's true.
Tia just lays around all day, brings me joy, maybe
just
the odd
putting
person.
up with the haircuts you give her, right?
Yes, the odd person at the park, but you know, she could be doing a little bit more. She just laid all day today by the front door. Couldn't really get her to do anything there. Really, really nice. So nice to see the enjoyment that Coogie brings. What an interesting name, Coogie brings to all those folks. So that's really sweet. I love those stories. I think you're probably going to love this weather story. I mean, it's really good for the soul to have all this sunshine, all this vitamin D, and it's going to keep us going for several days here. It gets a little bit difficult on the environment, though, because you need to be watering your garden and your lawn and things like that. We're going to be a little bit, it's going to be a bit tricky with the water supply here. UV index high, very high, in fact, 9 for the next several days because of all the sunshine we're getting. Temperatures rising starting tomorrow. And yes, that's what I mean. You are going to be seeing dry. Wait till we get to the 5-day forecast. You see how many days out this is going to go. So it's sitting at 23 degrees right now. The current temperature, Chatham, 21 degrees. We're at 23 for Leamington. A slight humidex value. I mean, add a couple degrees. Our dew point for Windsor right now is 11. The air is really quite comfortable. High pressure that's in place, this has come to visit and to stay for a while. So we get that sinking air, and it does tend to heat. That air heats as well as it sinks. And that's why over the next few days, each day kind of that temperature will be going up. Now, those dew points will start to rise as we get towards the end of the week. So as we get towards Thursday, maybe more so Friday, Saturday, we could see some heat advisories or heat warnings go into place. We may need those at that time. So we'll see if that happens as we get into those low 30s, but feeling a little more oppressive. Enjoy it while it's comfortable. Comfortable sleeping weather tonight when we've got these lows, 12 degrees, clear skies. And then tomorrow we go even a little above seasonal, 27 for our high, 26 Chatham-Kent, 27 for Leamington. Wednesday, 29. There you are to 30 by Thursday. Dry through the period. I don't really see a chance for rain showers, a significant one, Chris, until about Sunday, second half of the weekend.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
No, I know it's a good thing. It's just like, really?
It's just pushed back, considering what we've had for the last little bit, for sure, eh?
Yes. What a week it's going to be. This is a week to take off. You're not going to be sick tomorrow. Don't call in sick.
No. We're going to pay attention. And we're going to tell. I will certainly be here. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, we do have more details coming up from Justin Trudeau saying that the government will extend some of the relief that's been made available to people during COVID-19. That's next. The Federal Emergency Relief Fund, helping millions of Canadians who are out of work because of COVID-19, is due to run out soon, but Justin Trudeau says the government will extend it.
If you're having troubles finding a job, you shouldn't also be worrying about whether you'll hit the limit of your CERB benefits. So right now, we're working on a solution to extend the benefit for people who can't return to work yet.
People can only claim the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit for 16 weeks. For some, the program currently ends in early July. The Prime Minister also announced applications are open for the Surplus Food Rescue Program. Trudeau says the government will buy surplus food from farmers and redistribute it to communities that need it. The family of Rayshard Brooks is calling for justice today after he was fatally shot by Atlanta police on Friday. It's the latest killing to fuel public anger against what many see as disproportionate use of force by police against black men.
No one walking this green earth expects to be shot and killed like trash in the street for falling asleep in a drive-thru.
It's just gonna be a long time before I heal. It's gonna be a long time before this family heals.
Now, on Friday, police had responded to a call of a man asleep in his car at a Wendy's restaurant drive-thru. What started with a sobriety test escalated into an arrest and a struggle before Brooks was shot in the back twice while running away. Local medical examiner's office has ruled that the 27-year-old's death as homicide. The officer who allegedly killed him has been fired from his job. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for CBC Windsor News. We leave you with some visuals tonight that might get that heart going a little bit. With all the dog talk today, here's some video of a game of fetch played out at Point Pelee National Park this weekend. Thanks for watching. For more on these stories, you can go to cbc.ca/Windsor. Make sure you and your family stay safe tonight.